How do you measure a life? Is it by the moments of joy collected like seashells in a glass jar? Or is it by the foundation you build, brick by brick, believing it will stand against any storm? For me, it was both. My name is Elena, and for 15 years, I measured my life in sun-drenched weekend breakfasts, in the sound of my daughter's laughter echoing through our hallway, in the quiet, steady presence of the man I called my rock, my husband, David. We weren't flashy. Ours was a happiness built in the mundane, the way he'd leave a single coffee pod by the machine for me every morning, how he never forgot to text good luck before a big meeting. We built a home. Not just a house, a small, charming tutor in a neighborhood where everyone knew each other's names. Our daughter, Chloe, was our universe, a bright, artistic soul of 14, with her father's calm eyes and, I thought, his honest heart. David, he was a man of routine, a financial advisor, trusted, respected. He left at 7:15 a.m., returned by 6:30 p.m. He traveled, yes, but modestly. A quarterly partner summit in the next state over, never more than 2 nights. He was present. He remembered anniversaries with simple, thoughtful gifts. He fixed the leaky faucet. He held my hand during sad movies. I truly believed I had won the silent lottery of a contented life. I had a career I loved in interior design, a family that felt whole, a future that looked like a gently unfolding, beautiful road. But a crack in a perfect vase doesn't start with a smash. It starts with the tiniest, almost invisible hairline fracture, a whisper where there should be silence. It was a Tuesday. Rain tapped against my office window. David was away at one of his summits. I was working on a client's mood board when my phone buzzed. A notification from our shared cloud storage, a family plan we used for photos, documents, the digital footprints of our lives. David's device has uploaded 47 new items. I smiled. He must have taken pictures at the conference dinner. I clicked, curious to see the bland hotel ballroom, the network of suited professionals. But the first image was not a ballroom. It was a park, sunny, green, and in the center, a little boy. He was beaming, holding a red balloon, his face alight with pure joy. He was about 3 years old. He had a familiar, dimpled smile, a smile that tugged at a deep, hidden place in my memory. My breath hitched. It was a stock photo? Maybe David was working on a presentation? I swiped. Another. The same boy, this time on a man's shoulders. The man was wearing a blue shirt, his face turned away, but I knew the slope of those shoulders. I knew that hairline. I knew the watch on the wrist that held the boy's little legs secure. It was David. The world did not tilt. It simply stopped. The rain sounds vanished. My own heartbeat became a deafening drum in my ears. My finger, cold and numb, swiped again and again. A woman with long dark hair, laughing as she pushed the boy on a swing. David kneeling, tying the boy's shoe. A picnic blanket. A living room I didn't recognize, with a plaid sofa and a large bay window. A birthday cake with 3 candles. A family. A second family. The phone slipped from my hand, clattering onto the desk. I stared at it, lying there, innocently, a portal to a hell I never knew existed. This wasn't a hidden affair. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a parallel universe, a constructed, sun-drenched, balloon-filled life running alongside my own for how long? Years? The betrayal wasn't a knife in the back. It was the slow, chilling realization that the ground beneath my feet for 15 years was not earth, but ice, and it was cracking wide open. How do you measure a life when you discover the ruler itself is a lie? For an hour, I just sat, frozen. The rain had stopped, leaving a cold, gray silence. The images were burned into my mind. The boy's smile, his smile, the woman's carefree laugh, the unfamiliar couch. A part of me, the wounded animal part, wanted to scream, to call him, to shatter the peace of his summit with my devastating knowledge. But a colder, sharper part, a part I didn't know I possessed, woke up. This part was quiet. This part was calculating. This part whispered, "If you scream now, you will only ever know what he chooses to tell you. You will be in the dark, reacting to his lies." No, I needed light. I needed the whole, ugly truth. I picked up my phone. My hands were steady now, unnervingly so. I navigated back to the cloud storage. He'd been careless, or perhaps he'd grown so comfortable in his double life that he'd gotten lazy. The photos were in a folder labeled Client Prospectus Draft, but he'd uploaded them from his personal phone while logged into the shared account. I began to dig, not as a wife, but as an archaeologist of my own ruin. I cross-referenced dates. The timestamps on these pictures weren't from this summit. They were from 6 weeks ago, a weekend when David had told me he was on a fishing trip with colleagues. He'd come back smelling of fresh air and with a vague story about a big catch he'd released. I remembered he'd seemed relaxed, happy. I checked credit card statements, the ones I had access to. Nothing unusual. Of course not. He was a financial advisor. If anyone knew how to hide money, it was him. Then I remembered the safe, a small, fireproof box in his study closet. He said it was for our passports, birth certificates, and his important work files. I'd never had the desire to open it. Trust was the combination lock. But now, trust was dead. I waited until 2 a.m., my body humming with a sick energy. I crept into his study. The safe was behind a panel in the closet. I didn't know the combination, but David was a creature of habit. I tried Chloe's birthday. Nothing. Our anniversary. Nothing. His own birthday. The lock clicked open. My heart hammered against my ribs. Inside were the passports, some old jewelry of his mother's, and a sleek black smartphone, a phone I had never seen before. It was powered off. I held it, this sleek black secret. This was the ghost, the phone that called her, that held pictures of his son, that lived the other life. I couldn't turn it on. It would have a password, biometrics, but its mere existence was a confession more damning than any words. I placed it back exactly as I found it. I closed the safe. I sat in his leather chair in the dark, surrounded by the books and awards of David's respectable life, and I made a decision. I would not confront, not yet. I would observe, I would document, I would become a ghost in his haunted house. I needed to understand the scope of this other world. Where did they live? How long had this been? Who was she? The next day, David returned. He walked through the door, dropping his suitcase, smiling that easy smile. He kissed my cheek. "Missed you, Elle. The summit was a drag, but productive." I looked into his eyes, the eyes I'd loved for 15 years, and I saw a stranger, a brilliant, chilling actor. I forced a smile, the hardest performance of my life. "I missed you too. How was the fishing?" I asked, my voice light, referencing his last alibi. He chuckled, hanging up his coat. "Not a bite, but the peace was great." The peace. The peace of being with them, while I was here holding down our life, loving our daughter, believing in us. I poured him a glass of water, my hand not even shaking. "You should go more often," I said. "You always come back so relaxed." He smiled, oblivious to the tectonic plates shifting beneath him. "Maybe I will." And in that moment, the mission crystallized. He would have his peace, for now, because my storm was gathering, and when it hit, it would wash away every lie, every secret, every pretense of the man I thought he was. Following a ghost is a lonely, hollow business. You move through your own life like a specter, your real attention fixated on the shadow world just out of sight. I became a master of passive reconnaissance. David's work phone was always left on the kitchen counter when he showered. One evening, under the guise of closing a buzzing notification, I noted the model. It was identical to the secret one in the safe, a matching set for his matching lives. I began tracking his business trips with quiet precision. The upcoming one was in 2 weeks, a regional conference in the city of Crestwood, a 2-hour drive away. He'd be gone Friday and Saturday night. The week before he left, I hired a private investigator. It felt like a scene from a movie, something I would never do. Sitting across from a man named Leo in a bland, neutral cafe, I felt a profound shame. But beneath the shame was a steel resolve. I gave Leo the dates, David's description, his license plate number, and the scant details I had. The park from the photo, the bay window. "I just need to know the address," I said, my voice low, "and if there's a child." Leo, a man in his 50s with kind, tired eyes, nodded. He didn't ask prying questions. He'd seen this before. "I'll be discreet," he promised. The day David left, he was all cheerful efficiency. "Cell service might be spotty at the retreat center," he said, kissing my forehead, a preemptive excuse for silence. I hugged him tight, breathing in the scent of his cologne, feeling the lie vibrate between us. "Have a wonderful time, honey," I whispered into his shoulder. As soon as his car turned the corner, I texted Leo. "He's on the move." The updates came not in real time, but in a devastating summary the next day. Leo met me at the same cafe, sliding a manila envelope across the table. David had driven not to a conference center in Crestwood, but to a suburban development called Maple Creek, just 40 minutes from our home. 40 minutes. He had been living a double life within arm's reach. The envelope contained time-stamped photographs. David pulling into the driveway of a charming modern cottage. The woman, her name, Leo discovered, was Anya, running out to greet him, throwing her arms around his neck. The little boy, his name was Jacob, barreling into David's legs, yelling, "Daddy! Daddy!" The word was a physical blow. Chloe's father. Jacob's father. My husband. There were pictures of them at a local grocery store, at a pizza place, walking a dog, a golden retriever we didn't have. The domesticity of it was crushing. This wasn't a seedy hideaway. This was a home. It had flower boxes under the bay window. It had a basketball hoop over the garage. It was someone's dream. Leo provided the facts, his voice gentle. Anya Richardson, 32, freelance graphic designer. She'd moved to Maple Creek 4 years ago. Jacob was 3 years and 4 months old. The house was rented, but the lease was under David's name, a corporate alias he'd set up. 4 years. He had been building this for 4 years, through Chloe's 10th birthday, through my mother's illness, through quiet nights where he'd held me, whispering about our future. I thanked Leo, paid him, and drove to a lookout point overlooking the city. I sat there for hours, watching the lights come on in 1,000 homes, each one a story. Which ones, I wondered, were built on lies like mine? I thought of Anya. Did she know about me? About Chloe? Was she a villain or just another woman who'd believed a handsome man's story about being trapped in a loveless, soon-to-end marriage? I felt a shocking, unwanted pang of something for her. She loved him. The photos showed it. She was raising his son. And Jacob, that beautiful, innocent boy. He had my husband's eyes. He was blameless, yet his very existence was the weapon that had destroyed my world. The grief was a tidal wave, but it crashed against a wall of cold, hard fury. David hadn't just betrayed me. He had fractured reality for 2 women and 2 children. He had split himself in 2, thinking he could keep both worlds spinning forever. He was wrong. His secret family was no longer a secret, and the knowledge was a loaded gun in my hands. The only question was when and how I would pull the trigger. Knowledge is power, but it is also a prison. For 2 weeks, I limbed inside the bars of my terrible truth. I smiled at Chloe's jokes. I cooked dinners. I folded David's laundry. And all the while, the images from Maple Creek played behind my eyes on a relentless, torturous limp. David was affectionate, more than usual. He brought me flowers. He suggested a date night. It was the guilt, I realized. The guilt of a man returning from one life, trying to pour kindness into the other to balance the scales. Each gesture felt like an insult. I knew I couldn't hold it in much longer. The pressure was cracking my performance. One night, over a dinner I could barely taste, Chloe chattered about a school art project. "Dad, can you drive me to the craft store on Saturday, right? We need supplies." David shifted in his seat, a tiny, almost imperceptible flinch. "Ah, sweetie, I can't this Saturday. I have a last-minute client brunch, an out-of-town investor. It's very important." The lie was so smooth, so effortless. The client brunch would be pancakes with Jacob. The out-of-town investor was his other son. I put my fork down. The sound was final in the quiet dining room. "Another commitment?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. "You just got back from a trip." He looked at me, his expression the perfect blend of apology and mild irritation. "Elena, come on. You know this is the busy season. This is for our future." Our future. The words were a match thrown on gasoline. "Chloe, honey," I said, my eyes locked on David, "please go finish your homework in your room." "Mom, I'm eating." "Now, please." She heard the tone I'd never used with her, a steel thread of pure authority. She looked between us, worry clouding her face, but she took her plate and left. The silence after her footsteps faded was thick enough to choke on. "What's going on, Elena?" David asked, playing the confused husband. "It's just a brunch." I stood up slowly. I walked to the kitchen drawer, the one with the cooking gadgets, and pulled out the manila envelope. I had made copies. I placed it on the table in front of him. "Open it." He frowned, wiping his mouth with a napkin. "What is this?" "Your future," I said, echoing his words. He opened the clasp, slid the photos out. I watched his face. I saw the color drain from it, saw his jaw go slack, saw the bloodless pallor of pure, unmasked shock. The actor's mask shattered. For a long, terrible moment, he said nothing. He just stared at a picture of himself holding Jacob on his shoulders in Maple Creek Park. When he finally looked up, his eyes were wide with a primal fear. "Elena, I can explain." "You can explain?" My voice was a low whisper, trembling with the force of a scream held back. "You can explain this? Explain her? Explain my husband having a son?" "It's not what you think," he began, the oldest, weakest line in the book. "Don't!" I slammed my hand on the table, making the china jump. "Don't you dare tell me what to think. You have another family, David. You have a home 40 minutes away. You have a child for 4 years. Look at his face. He's 3. You looked me in the eye every single day for 3 years, and you lied." He was crumbling before me. The strong, dependable pillar of my life was turning to sand. "It was the mistake. It started as one thing, and then she got pregnant. I didn't know how to get out. I was going to tell you." "When?" I demanded, tears of fury now streaming down my face. "When Jacob graduated college? When you retired and split your time between your 2 wives? What was the plan, David? Because you built this. You rented the house, you bought the dog, you showed up for birthdays. This isn't a mistake. This is a life." He dropped his head into his hands. "What do you want me to say? I'm sorry. God, Elena, I am so sorry." "Sorry?" The word was hollow, absurd. Sorry doesn't unbreak this. Sorry doesn't tell me who you are. I don't know you. The man I married could not have done this. So who are you? He had no answer. He just sat there, broken, exposed. The confrontation wasn't the dramatic explosion I'd imagined. It was a chilling implosion. The revelation of his secret hadn't made him defiant. It had made him small, pathetic. "You will not see Chloe until we figure this out," I said, my voice icy now. The grief was freezing into something harder. You will sleep in the guest room. You will tell me every detail of your finances, every account, every asset, and you will not go to your client brunch on Saturday." He just nodded, defeated. I turned and walked away, leaving him alone with the photographs of his other life. But as I climbed the stairs, past Chloe's closed door where I knew she was crying, I felt no relief, no closure, only a vast, echoing emptiness, and a new, terrifying question. What now? The confrontation was over, but the war for my life, for my daughter's future, had just begun. In the days that followed, our house became a museum of dead love. David moved like a ghost through the rooms. I spoke to him only in clipped, necessary phrases about bills or household logistics. The man who had been my partner was now a tenant, a stranger occupying space. Chloe knew something was catastrophically wrong. She'd heard enough. One afternoon, she came into my studio, her eyes red-rimmed. "Mom, is Dad having an affair?" The directness of it shattered me. How could I tell her the truth? That her father's betrayal was so much vaster, so much more foundational than a simple affair? That she had a half-brother? I chose a fragile, partial truth. "Your father has kept some very big secrets, Chloe. Secrets that have broken my trust. It's more complicated than an affair. And I am so sorry that you're caught in the middle of this." "Is he leaving?" she whispered, her voice small. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "But I need you to know something, and it's the most important thing. This is not your fault. Nothing you did or didn't do caused this. Your father's choices are his own, and I will make sure you are safe and loved, no matter what." I held her as she cried, my own tears falling silently into her hair. Protecting her became the central pillar of my existence. But protection wasn't just about comfort. It was about justice. It was about ensuring David could not simply walk away from the wreckage he'd created and into his other, waiting life. Revenge is a bitter word. I preferred reconstruction. I would not destroy him out of spite. I would systematically dismantle the false structures he'd built and secure a true foundation for Chloe and me. The plan formed not in a flash of anger, but in the cold, quiet hours of the night. It had 3 phases. Phase 1, the financial fortress. David, terrified and compliant, gave me access to all statements. I hired a forensic accountant, a sharp woman named Ruth. Together, we uncovered it all. The separate account funding the Maple Creek house, the credit card for business expenses that bought children's toys and groceries, the investments in Anya's name. Over 4 years, he had diverted nearly $200,000 of our shared marital assets to support his second family. It was financial infidelity on a staggering scale. We froze everything. Every joint account was separated. Ruth began building an ironclad case for divorce that would leave him with no room to hide assets. Phase 2, the legal labyrinth. I met with a divorce attorney who had a reputation for being a calm, ruthless shark. Sylvia listened to my story, reviewed the financial evidence and the PI's report, and nodded. "We have him," she said simply. "Adultery is one thing, but the prolonged deception, the secret child, the dissipation of marital funds, the court will not look kindly on this." We would file under the most severe grounds. Custody of Chloe was not in doubt. She was old enough to express her wishes, and her wish was to live with the parent who hadn't built a life on lies. We would go for primary physical and legal custody, with David's visitation contingent on therapy. Phase 3, the truth. This was the most dangerous, most delicate part. The truth was a weapon that could wound innocence. I had to wield it with surgical precision. Anya deserved to know the full scope of her reality. And David's greatest sin was compartmentalization. He kept his 2 worlds separate. My final act would be to force them to collide. I would not be cruel to Anya. I saw her not as an enemy, but as another of David's victims. I drafted a letter, not an angry, vengeful screed, a cold, factual one. It included my name and my relationship to David, the length of our marriage, a picture of Chloe and me from our last family vacation, documentation proving the Maple Creek lease was paid from our joint assets, a simple line: You have been told a story about David's life that is not true. I am sorry that we are both living in his fiction. I would send it, but timing was everything. First, I had to ensure Chloe was armored. I sat her down for the full, brutal truth. It was the hardest conversation of my life. I showed her a picture of Jacob. "This is your half-brother," I said, my heart breaking for her. "His name is Jacob. He is 3. His mother's name is Anya. Your father has been living a double life with them." "He has a son?" she breathed. "All those times he was too busy for me?" "He was with him," I finished softly. She looked at the photo of the little boy, her brother. A mix of pain and a strange, protective curiosity flickered in her eyes. "Does he know about me?" "I don't know," I said, "but he will. The lies end now." With Chloe braced, the fortress secured, and the legal arrows notched, I was ready. The plan was set. The quiet wife was gone. In her place stood a general, preparing for the final battle. David thought the confrontation was the end. He had no idea it was merely the opening move. D-Day arrived on a deceptively sunny Saturday. David, under the terms of our tense detente, was at home, tinkering pointlessly in the garage. Chloe was at a friend's house, shielded from what was to come. I dressed carefully, not for him, but for me. Clothes that made me feel strong. I printed the final letter to Anya. I gathered key documents into a folder. My heart was a steady, hard drumbeat in my chest. No fear, only purpose. I walked into the garage. David was pretending to organize tools. He looked up, hope flickering in his eyes, the hope that this was an olive branch. "We need to take a drive," I said, my voice flat. "A drive? Elena, what's going on?" "You'll see. Get in the car." He hesitated, confusion turning to dread. "Where are we going?" "Maple Creek." The name hung in the oily air of the garage like a detonated bomb. He went utterly still. "No. Elena, please, you can't." "I can, and I am. You have 2 choices. You get in the car with me and you face this with some semblance of dignity, or I go alone and I explain to Anya exactly who you are, without you there to spin more lies. Your choice." The color drained from his face again. He saw the folder in my hand. He saw my resolve. He was trapped. With a slow, defeated slump of his shoulders, he put down the wrench and walked to the passenger side of my car. The 40-minute drive was silent. The tension was a physical presence in the vehicle. I navigated calmly, following the route I'd memorized from Leo's report. David stared out the window, his breathing shallow. We entered Maple Creek. It was as idyllic as in the photos. Trees, playgrounds, smiling families on bikes. I turned onto Willow Lane. I slowed as we approached number 214, the cottage, the flower boxes, the basketball hoop. The golden retriever was lying on the front porch. David made a small, choked sound. "Please, don't do this." I pulled over a few houses down, put the car in park, and turned to him. "This is the reality you built, David. Now you get to live in it. All of it, at once." I handed him the folder. "This contains my letter to Anya, a summary of the financial dissipation, and pictures of our family, the one you've been lying to. You are going to walk up to that door, and you are going to tell her everything. You are going to show her these. You are going to come clean. To her, to me, to yourself." "You want me to destroy her?" he whispered, horrified. "You already did," I said, my voice like ice. "The moment you lied to her. I'm just forcing you to clean up the mess. This is the only chance you have to show even a fragment of decency. Go, now, or I will." He looked at the house, at the folder, at my unyielding face. He was in hell, and I was the architect. He fumbled with the car door handle and got out. He looked like a man walking to the gallows. I watched him. My hands were clenched so tight on the steering wheel, my knuckles were white. This was the collision. This was the moment the 2 trains he'd been driving on the same track finally met. He walked up the path. The dog wagged its tail. He knocked on the door. After a moment, it opened. Anya stood there. She was beautiful, smiling in welcome, dressed in casual Saturday clothes. I saw her say his name, her expression happy, then confused as she registered his demeanor. She stepped back to let him in. The door closed, and I waited. I don't know how long I sat there. 5 minutes? 20? Time lost all meaning.
I imagined the scene inside, the shock, the tears, the devastation, the unraveling of her perfect picture. Then the front door flew open. Anya stood there, her hand over her mouth. She wasn't looking at me, she was staring into the middle distance, shattered. David appeared behind her, reaching for her, but she flinched away as if burned. She turned and screamed something at him, her face contorted in pain. Then she ran back inside, slamming the door. David stood alone on the porch, the folder dangling from his hand. He looked broken, hollowed out. He had finally seen the true cost of his deception reflected in the eyes of both women he had betrayed. He walked slowly back to the car. He got in, said nothing. He just stared straight ahead. "Drive," he finally said, his voice ragged. "Just drive." As I pulled away from Willow Lane, I didn't feel triumph. I felt a profound, exhausting sorrow. For Anya, for Jacob, for Chloe, for the man beside me who had burned down 2 families to feed his own cowardice and ego. The collision was complete. The wreckage was absolute. Now it was time for the survivors to walk away from the crash.
The fallout was a quiet, seismic event. David moved out that week. He rented a sterile, furnished apartment. The legal machinery, oiled by Sylvia and Ruth, ground forward with relentless efficiency. The divorce petition was filed, detailing the grounds with clinical precision. The financial settlement proposal was brutal. I would keep the house, the majority of our savings and investments, and he would be responsible for a significant portion of my legal fees. He would also pay child support for Chloe and separately for Jacob. His clean, double life was now a public, messy, and expensive disaster. But the reaction I had braced for, the one I thought would be the climax of my revenge, came from an unexpected direction. It was a Thursday evening, 2 weeks after the collision on Willow Lane. My doorbell rang. Chloe was upstairs. I looked through the peephole. It was Anya. My breath caught. She stood alone on my porch, no Jacob in sight. She looked pale, tired, but composed. This was not the furious, betrayed woman from the doorway. This was someone else. I opened the door. We stood there, 2 strangers bound by the same man's lies, looking at each other for the first time in the flesh. "Elena?" she asked quietly. I nodded. "Anya, can I come in for a moment? I won't stay long." I stepped back, letting her enter the home David had shared with me. She didn't look around with curiosity or envy. She seemed wrapped in a private grief. "I got your letter," she began, sitting on the edge of an armchair. After he came over, after I read it all, I needed some time to process." "I understand," I said, sitting across from her. "I am so sorry he did this to you, to us." She gave a small, sad shake of her head. "He told me you were separated, that it was over years ago, just waiting for the divorce to be final for financial reasons, that you lived in another state, that he was just staying in the city for work during the week. He had an entire script." A tear traced down her cheek. "I believed him. I loved him. I loved the man I thought he was." "So did I whispered, the shared pain a bridge between us. "Jacob," she said, her voice strengthening. "He loves his dad. That's the hardest part. What do I tell him?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Chloe is devastated too. She just found out she has a brother." Anya looked up, her eyes meeting mine. "Jacob should know his sister. When the dust settles, if that's something you and Chloe would ever be open to. He shouldn't be punished for his father's sins." Her words shocked me. Where I expected blame, rage, or rivalry, I found a desperate maternal grace. She wasn't here to fight me. She was here to find a lifeline in the same wreckage. "I would like that," I found myself saying. "Chloe is angry, but she's curious about him. She's innocent in this too." We talked for an hour, not as friends, but as allies in trauma. We shared timelines, piecing together David's intricate web of absences and excuses. We agreed to communicate, through our lawyers if needed, to ensure Jacob and Chloe's needs were met, and that David couldn't play us against each other anymore. When she left, she turned to me on the porch. "Thank you," she said, "for the letter.
It was the kindest, cruel thing anyone has ever done to me. It set me free, even as it broke me. I nodded. Take care of yourself, Anya. You too. I watched her drive away. This was the shocking reaction. Not a dramatic fight, not a public scandal. It was this quiet, heartbreaking solidarity. David's greatest fear had been his two worlds colliding. He'd imagined fire and noise. He never imagined they would recognize their shared captivity and, tentatively, choose peace. His reaction to our meeting, he called me, his voice a mix of panic and disbelief. Anya told me she saw you. Why? Why would you talk to her? Because we have more to discuss with each other than we will ever have to discuss with you again, David, I said calmly. You connected us. Now you don't get to control the connection. He was silent. He had been outmaneuvered, not just legally or financially, but humanly. The women he'd pitied as emotional creatures had outlogicked him, outplanned him, and found a fragile peace without him. His betrayal had not turned us into enemies. It had, in a twisted way, made us reluctant kin. The revenge was not in his financial ruin or his lonely apartment. The true revenge was his utter irrelevancy to the new future we were building. He was no longer the sun around which two worlds revolved. He was a dark spot in our past, a cautionary tale we had both survived.
Time, as it always does, began to sand down the sharpest edges of the pain. The divorce was finalized, the settlement held. David saw Chloe under structured, therapeutic supervision. The relationship was wounded, a slow mend that may never be complete. He was a diminished figure in her life, a lesson in fallibility. Chloe began therapy, and slowly her anger tempered into a sharp, clear-eyed understanding. One Saturday, she asked, "Can we invite Jacob and Anya to the park? Not with Dad, just us?" My heart swelled with a pride that had nothing to do with revenge. It was the pride of seeing my daughter choose empathy over bitterness. We met at a neutral park. It was awkward, incredibly so. Anya and I exchanged cautious smiles. Jacob, a bundle of sunny energy, clung to his mother's leg, eyeing Chloe with curiosity. Chloe, my brave girl, knelt down. "Hi, Jacob. I'm Chloe. I like your dinosaur shirt." He peeked out. "It's a T-Rex. Roar!" And just like that, the ice cracked. They played on the swings. Anya and I sat on a bench, sipping coffee, talking not about David, but about our kids, our work, the strange path that had led us here. It wasn't a friendship. It was a truce, a shared custody of a terrible history. As for me, I rebuilt. I threw myself into my design business, finding solace in creating beauty from chaos. The house felt different, lighter, even with the memories. It was no longer our home. It was mine and Chloe's, a safe harbor. I heard through the grapevine that David's professional reputation had taken a hit. The scandal, though private, had a way of leaking in whispers. He was no longer the trusted family man advisor. He was the guy with the complicated personal life. He moved to a smaller firm. He lived for his weekends with Jacob, trying, perhaps too late, to be a consistent father to one of the children he'd failed. One evening, I was in my studio, sketching. Chloe was doing homework. The quiet was no longer the quiet of dread, but of peace. I looked at a framed photo on my desk of Chloe and me smiling on a recent weekend trip. A new picture, a true one. This is the moral of the story, the lesson carved from the fire. Betrayal doesn't always come as a loud, dramatic affair. Sometimes it's a silent, parallel life built in the shadows of your own. It's the erosion of truth, one lie at a time, until the ground gives way beneath you. Revenge, true revenge, is not about violence or humiliation. It is not about sinking to their level. The most powerful revenge is reclamation. Reclaim your truth, reclaim your peace, reclaim your financial security, reclaim your story. I didn't destroy David. His own choices did that. I simply refused to be buried in the rubble with him. I dug out, and I brought my daughter with me.
And in an act of unexpected grace, I extended a hand to the other woman he'd trapped in his fiction. The shocking reaction wasn't his rage or his breakdown. It was the profound, quiet power of two women refusing to be defined by a man's deceit, choosing instead to be defined by their resilience, their compassion for the innocent children caught in the crossfire, and their unwavering commitment to a future built on truth, however painful its foundation. If you are in the shadows, sensing a crack in your perfect picture, trust your instinct. The truth, however devastating, is your only path to freedom. Gather your evidence, secure your resources, plan with a cold mind, even while your heart breaks. And remember, your greatest revenge is to live well, to love fully, and to build a new picture that is authentically, unshakably yours. The man who had a secret second family thought he could have it all. In the end, he lost everything he pretended to have and everything he truly did. And the wife he thought he had in the palm of his hand, she closed her fist and found her own strength inside it.